Hey folks, it is the Nutty Knife Guy. Sorry I have not been too active of late on the channel, but God willing, the river don't rise. I got a new book coming out in the spring, and I have been doing short stories and articles and things like that related to being an author. In short, I've actually had to do my job. Anyway, I posted on my community thing about my kind of experimental history project, my homemade footman's mace, or war club, or whatever you want to call it. But basically, we'll call this a mace. And this came about starting last summer. We had to have a tree removed out back because it was becoming a problem. Rose of Sharon. It was interfering with some uh, other shrubbery, other plant life we like more, and starting to interfere with a cable. So we got rid of it. But in the waste pile, I saw this fairly straight piece and said, that can be weaponized, because everything that can be weaponized should be weaponized. I'm joking, kind of. Anyway, uh, and I just kind of looked around in the garage. The only thing uh, and I found this 1 inch pipe cap that just fit on the shaft nicely. Now, uh, I opened up this with the testing because I really didn't plan to make this video today because the weather's miserable, but I had to go to the store and I was going to go past the garage anyway. So I decided just to film that before I got in the car and went to the store, and then film this part when I came back. Now, the head got substantially loose from hitting that brick 3 times. So I will find a way. I've got some ideas about to reattach that more securely, because I do plan to play with this a lot in my practice. Now, my shtick in college, my major was history. I had a double major, political science and history, with a writing minor. So my interest in weapons, all weapons, primarily edged weapons, but all weapons, and my love of history coexist in the same space. I think a case can be made that you trace mankind's history and progress through his weapons, whether you like it or not. So I thought, well, I could actually have some fun, make myself a new toy, spend pretty much no money. The only thing I actually had to buy was the leather for the handle wraps. And I could actually figure out how these maces work. You see how in movies, the maces have these great big huge heads on them, and to me they always look like, how could you possibly wield that? Well, a little research found out that those mace heads were usually hollow, the ones with the spikes, and they were made big that way, so you had a bigger surface area, easier to hit your target, and you could put spikes and flanges on it to make it a little bit more nasty. But a lot of them just had round heads or something like this, and I found out, I can't swing it where I am now, but I found out that this thing is actually much more wieldy than you would think. Now, this is only about 6 to 8 ounces on the end. But on the end of the hammer like this, it really concentrates a lot of force. And the momentum and inertia, the physics of this thing actually make this not really unwieldy. I mean, you can do it, but I was surprised how easy it was to use this thing. Now, you saw, or you're going to see in the footage, I haven't decided whether I'm going to put the footage, the brick breaking footage first or last, but you will see one way or the other. You're going to see. It took me a couple of swings to get the dynamics of this thing down. So I was hitting with the main part of this, and that's really why the wrap is here, especially the wire, is to reinforce that for in case you don't hit with the end of it. And also, you sometimes use these things as in two-handeds for parrying, and I'm finding that out. I've been playing with this a lot. So this is experimental history, because especially with the European martial arts, the HEMA guys, this is all being rediscovered by a lot of people from manuals and everything that were written back before the Renaissance into the migration period and medieval period. And these treatises that were in there were a lot of them were hand drawn, or very few copies of them were in private collections and museums and in monasteries, and didn't see the light of day until the internet came out. They started actually making these fighting manuals available to the public for free for the most part. And now, for the last 20 or 30 years, you've had people who didn't think Europe had a martial arts tradition or knew it had it, but couldn't find a way to study it. These manuals came out, and people started rediscovering historical European martial arts. And I'm one of those people. I really like figuring out the way they did things from these manuals, because with the Asian martial arts, there was a tradition where these things were passed down from generations. Even karate as we know it, which most of those systems actually had their roots as a codified system back in the 20s and 30s, stem from centuries of tradition, passing it down from generation. That really didn't happen in Europe because of the firearm. And the manuals that we have now, it's just, the firearm so completely took over the traditions, and it was a lot of that the martial arts tradition with how to use swords and everything wasn't as well preserved there, except in these treatises which really were made for dueling gentlemen. And right, so there's some experimentation in recreating how these weapons were used, and I found it very educational. And of course, this also, like a Native American war club or something like that, it's basically the same thing. So you can learn how things, and I've always maintained it, if you can get an idea how people fought back in the day, get an idea how they thought, and that's really important. So that's basically it. I'm going to go ahead and make the rest of the video, get it all spliced together and put it out so you can see this thing. Now, it did take me a couple of 3 tries before I broke that brick, but that was the first time I'd actually hit anything with this. And it's like any weapon that you swing. You have to get the idea of the balance and whatnot. But I do want to point out that to break that brick, it didn't take, a great caveman swing. The right mechanics and everything. You're not swinging as hard as you possibly can because you don't want to, because this has enough weight that if you swing for the fences every time, then it's going to be hard to recover. So here you go. There's the footage is real quick. This is going to be a real quick video because, like I said, it is impromptu. I have to go cook dinner, and then I have to get back to the word processor. So, even though I did not do a knife today, I am going to leave you with my usual admonishment to draw your knives only in just purpose, sheathe them only with honor, and remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. But sometimes it's okay because you have a mace. Okay, so I do need to fasten the head back again, but not too shabby. Well, once I got the feel of the old girl, got the mechanics right, and we'll see what comes.